Yikes. Try it. Take number 2. What's up, Parish Orphans and Retrogrades? Merry Christmas, day 2. Take 2, day 2, because we just tried to go live. And the whole family's been sick. You might have caught me saying that. The computer evidently caught the bug because it had the sickness all over that attempt at the first live stream of the day. We have been out for 9 days with a horrible bug. I won't make you learn that all again, but you can see it on me, you can detect it, you can hear it in my voice. It's been rough. The last show we did was significantly enough Christmas suffering, pre-Christmas suffering, late Advent suffering, what have you. And a lot of people really connected with that show. And then as soon as we put that thing out there, I think later that day, the family started getting really sick, and it's been like a field hospital around my house. We thought a week before Christmas, at least we'll be safe for Christmas, but this thing has lingered. While I was out and knocked out, all I had time to do was sleep during the day, so much sleep, and check Twitter. And many of you will note that this Christian lambaster site, Babylon Bee, we call it the Babylonian Tea, is in Talmud. It picked a fight with Catholic Candace Owens on Christmas Eve. I believe it was the 23rd. For no real good reason, just started calling her an anti-Semite. For no real reason, right? This is supposed to be, in name, this is a pro-Christian site, calling Candace Owens an anti-Semite on, the eve of Christmas Eve, which to me, that's weird. And so many folks have noted how weird their subject matter selector has been over the last couple of years since that thing changed management. Well, here's what they wrote on the 23rd. Candace Owens horrified to learn Christmas was started by the birth of a Jew. And it's supposed to be funny because Candace Owens, who's been a Christian for some time, evidently didn't know that Christmas was Jesus' birthday and that Jesus was a Jew. So why would you do this on the 23rd of December? Strikes one funny. And a lot of people came out of the woodwork to comment that Babylon Bee has been like this for quite some time. They never make fun of Judaism, but they make fun of Christianity and Christians lots. And of course, it's been purchased or run the last few years by a convert from Judaism. So it's funny, you never get these shots across the bow at Judaism. You only get them at Catholics, and specifically for an issue that would be a sensitive spot. Here's the tongue-in-cheek fake news. Media personality Candace Owens was shocked and appalled today after discovering that Christmas originated because of the birth of a Jew. "You've got to be kidding me," exclaimed a stunned Owens. "This whole thing, the lights, the carols, people worshiping, all this because of a Jew being born. Ugh, our entire national calendar revolves around this holiday, and no one talks about that it's all because of a Jew, and we're still pretending like they don't control everything." This is fake Candace Owens in the spoof news saying these things. She didn't really say this. The horrified Owens began tearing down all of her Christmas decorations and throwing them out to the curb, disgusted that she had been tricked by a plot. Lighting her nativity scene on fire, Owens resolved to expose the villainous Christmas plot to her listeners. "Real Christians do not celebrate Christmas," said Owens the next morning as she began taping. Remember, this is supposed to be funny.
I haven't laughed one time.
This isn't funny at all. The fact is, if you're celebrating Christmas, you've been duped. You're just a pawn cheering the birth of just like they want you to do. And when I say they, I think you know who I mean. At publishing time, Owens had once again gasped in dismay after learning that Easter celebrated the coming back to life of a Jewish guy. So what I retweeted this under the heading of was a statement that you can never be politically correct or white knight for a politically correct lobby group and be funny. You can't do it. None of this is funny. It's clear they're white knighting for a certain group, and in order to white knight for this certain group, they have to attack this other group represented. Metonymus, is that metonymy or synecdoche? I forget. Represented by one person, one voice, in this case Candace Owens, who's representative of the class. And it's not funny. It's not funny when folks do that. It's not funny at all. Now, I retweeted, and this tweet went off the hinges. I said, never forget that they ran this. This was in August of this year. A very, very, very disrespectful one. Babylon B, Babylonian T, as I call them. You're going to be a perpetual what? Joseph asks Mary on wedding night. That was August the 17th. They ran that. And it's, again, not funny.
I like jokes. Where's the joke?
Where's the joke?
Like, I love jokes.
I mean, there's nothing to laugh at there, unless you're laughing at Mary's perpetual virginity. We'll talk about that a little bit. But I do want to get back to the Owens thing. This is, poking fun at St. Joseph, the terror of demons, and Mary, queen of the saints. He's asking her, you're going to be a perpetual what? This is from Nazareth. Recently unveiled manuscripts, which seem to be a commentary on the Gospel of Luke, revealed that Joseph the carpenter was in for a huge shock on the night of his wedding to a hometown girl named Mary. Now, I mean, I'm not going to read the rest of this filth, but even that first setup paragraph, what does that sound like? Tonally speaking, what does this remind you of? It's hometown girl Mary. This is the same way that the secular press, which is run by certain people who are very, very, very sympathetic to jokes like this, it reads just like that at the Babylon B, Babylonian T. And so people really have turned on Babylon B, myself included. Used to think they could be funny. When they come out with this Candace Owens one on Christmas Eve, or 4 months before that, you're going to be a perpetual what? There's nothing funny about that. Now, the Babylon B was, Seth Dillon's the guy that runs it. Let me show you. I invited one of these guys on the show. Who was it? I retweeted this recently. I'll walk you through it. There's a New York Times op-ed article on Christmas Eve run by a guy that sounds kind of like the Babylon Bee did the previous day. I'll read that to you in a second. But so Kyle Mann is one of the head joke writers at Babylon Bee. He said, when everyone went nuts on this, because they're like, why are you attacking Candace Owens, who is a Christian? Isn't this a Christian site? Shouldn't you be making fun of religions other than Christianity? He said, I think maybe you just didn't get the joke. Let me try to explain. It's that Candace Owens was horrified to learn that Christmas was started by the birth of a who. Hope this helps.
Again, where's the joke?
Where's the joke? Here's the thing. Kyle, man, I invited him on the show if he wanted to talk about it. Obviously, he didn't. Candace responds, everyone is starting to see the agenda behind your jokes. Hope this helps. And Tom Woods even was saying, so you've just restated the joke. Hey, Luigi online said, gonna keep asking until I get an answer. Why have you never made a joke at the expense of that group? So they have this irritating similar quality to the secular media, which is always favorable to that group, where they don't feel like they have to back down. They're the ones that are always like, oh, Candace Owens needs to back down. She can't have her trad Catholic views on, replacement theology. Those trad Catholics, they believe in a kind of replacement theology, which sets aside Judaism. That's in fact what Catholicism preaches and teaches. And Candace can't have the full-throated version of this view, but we can. We're the white knights. White knights always have that perspective. Like we're just going to repeat our joke, and you can get glad in the same pants you got mad in.
That used to work when jokes were actually offensive and funny. That whole shtick of like people getting upset at a joke that was actually funny, and then the comedian rightfully saying like, oh, it's a joke. Like, are you guys so lame? You can't take a joke. But what's annoying about the Babylon Bee is that they're trying that old shtick of like, this is a joke. What does America devolve to that we can't make jokes anymore? It's like, this wasn't even funny. Your whole purpose is to make me laugh. And it was stupid.
Right.
It wasn't even funny. Like, you failed.
Well, you can't have both roles of the school marm who's going, that wasn't funny, that was offensive, and funny guy in class clown. You can't have school marm and funny guy. And that's what they're doing. That's what anybody, when they white knight for that group, does. They're being school marm. That's what the purpose of the joke, the butt of the joke, the punchline was school marmish. It's, hey, Candace Owens is out of line. We really need to intervene. Candace Owens and those trad Catholics whom she's joined up with, they need to be taken down a peg or two. And we're going to do it with a joke. Well, but you're not the class clown anymore. And there were some like boomers online that don't understand what's happened with the Babylon Bee, who took it over and all that. They were like, well, I've always thought they're funny. And it's just like, okay, you don't understand. Things change, management changes. People now hate the Babylonian tea, the Babylonian Talmud, as I've christened it in my apartment, in my home, as Michael Scott says. And it's just something you can't do.
It's all about the shackles.
All about the Benjamins. But now look at this similar kind of tone to what we're used to from something like New York Times. On Christmas Eve, they run an article called A Conversation About the Virgin Birth That Maybe Wasn't. And it's run by this cat, Nicholas Christoph, this columnist. No mystery there. Nicholas Christoph.
Right.
And he did an interview with the broad, what's her name? Elaine Pagels.
Okay.
Who is a I guess an evangelical who did the Gnostic Gospels and milked that teat all throughout the last 20 years, just taking the most fatuous lies out about the birth of Jesus and just making a payday over them. And hope, laugh while you can, Elaine. You're insulting the divine Son of God and the virginity of his mother Mary to make a buck. And I hope that works out for you. But she was employed on Christmas Eve of this year by Nicholas Christoph, who is not a Christian, you might be shocked to learn. With a name like that, more syllables in that name than a visual acuity test. He's got a lot of syllables in those names. You know what I mean? That's usually not a Christian. And again, taking it upon themselves to be the provocateur, not the schoolmarm now, but the provocateur. And very quickly afterwards, everyone hated this article. I think Mark Thiessen is where I found it. I think I found Bug Hall retweeting Mark Thiessen, and I retweeted Bug Hall retweeting Mark Thiessen, and this is how Twitter works. And it's only a matter of time between when the Christian white knight groups play simultaneous schoolmarm and prankster before you start seeing a mimicking pattern by the non-Christians with lots and lots of syllables in the name, who say, who play simultaneously the jester and the victim, or the provocateur and the victim, crying out as they strike, as the saying goes. So it's a similar what's that word? It's a non-compatible couple to be two things at once. To be a provocateur who plays victim, as that group does, and to be a schoolmarmish joker, the way the white knighting Christians will. Neither of them works. The former gets away with it more than the latter. But I don't know. Aren't you guys just sick of this stuff? At Christmas, the wimpy Christians turn on harder-edged Christians, or whatever, more traditional Christians, and the non-Christians out there who run the Who York Slimes, they just attack Christianity. It's Christmas Eve. This is our year when the whole world is celebrating the virgin birth of Christ. We're going to get in our statement, our bitter, dissimulating ressentiment, to use the Nietzschean terms. And we're just used to being able to get away with it because we are this group in society that walks between the raindrops by always talking about how we're special victims class. They get away with everything. They published this on New York Times op-ed, and there were responses like mine that were angry, but they certainly don't get the backlash, the marquee backlash that someone like Candace Owens does. And I'm not saying she's a victim either. I'm just saying you have Christian groups attacking Candace Owens with what they think is like righteous anger, and they're like, we're just going to repeat the joke, like the Babylon Bee guy did. And it wasn't a good joke. It wasn't a funny joke. Candace Owens horrified to learn Christmas was started by the birth of a Jew. What'd you say, Steph?
I said they have one job, and that's to make good jokes, and they're terrible at it.
They're not good.
What the hell happened over there?
Well, you can't be funny and politically correct. It's just a fact. It's literally impossible, I tweeted, to be funny and politically correct at the same time. This is hot garbage. So, well, okay, here's something that's always downstream of subversion of this style of, let's just call it non-Christian, anti-Christian subversion. You can always get the moron Protestants out there. You take a jab at all Christianity, by taking a jab at Mary and Mariology. And of course, Catholics and Orthodox are just like put out together. But then, and maybe some of the Protestants too that are a little shrewder, they like get it. But then the retarded among the Protestants, which I'm sorry to say is not a minority contingent, they start going for the bait. And this is what happened with when I retweeted the August 17th Babylon Bee, just to say, never forget, remember the Alamo, that you're going to be a perpetual what? Joseph asked Mary on wedding night. Who but the retarded Protestants started being, that was a good joke. That was really funny. And it's like, okay, so what you have is subversion. You have Jewish-styled, let's say Talmudic-styled anti-Christianity being leveled at Christians, and this is kind of what was leveled at Candace Owens. And of course, I have Orthodox friends online that were having proper responses. I had the Catholic friends online that were really mad about it. Bug Hall was going at it. That was good. But and maybe some Protestants are mad and they kind of get it. But then you get the Protestants that are like, no, that was a good joke. That was a good joke. And by the way, the Bible proves that Mary wasn't a virgin. And it's like, oh my gosh. It's the combination of the retards and aka Protestants, and then the Talmudic humor that really gets even sizable components of Christendom arguing amongst themselves on Christmas Eve or Christmas Eve. And I mean, when I look at the New York Slimes article by Nicholas Christoph and Elaine Pagels, I don't think they were restricting their claim to Mary would lose her virginity after the birth of Jesus. I think they were expressly calling into question the virgin birth of Jesus. So before, during, after. I guess Protestants, you can never tell with Protestants, right? Do all of them take offense to that too? There's so many of them, and it's such a historically illiterate sect or set of sects that I'll bet you there's some that aren't even offended by that. Elaine Pagels claims to be an evangelical. What? How could Jesus be the Son of God, the divine Son of God, if he didn't have a virgin birth? I don't even know how it works. They move up. They don't have 1,500 years of history the way Catholics and Orthodox do. And so then they're like, well, this is what we're going to do. Did you know that the Third Ecumenical Council and the Fifth Ecumenical Council dealt with this very explicitly? Mary is the Theotokos, not just the Christotokos. This was dogmatically anathematized to say otherwise at the Third Ecumenical Council of Ephesus. Again, Catholics and Orthodox agree about this stuff because both of them have something called history
and brains.
And there's a first millennium to the church, guys. There are 3 half millennia that exist before this man-made religion of Protestantism. It's just secular leftism. It's really Protestantism. And so the Third Ecumenical Council at Ephesus confirmed Mary is the Theotokos, not just the Christotokos, meaning she is the mother of God, not just the mother of Christ, mother of the God-man, not just the human part of the God-man. You can't split his two natures. His two natures are indivisible. But also, at the Fifth Council, which is Second Constantinople, there wasn't a lot of new business tended to. It was mainly just a reaffirmation. Constantinople II was of Councils 1, 2, 3, 4, including Ephesus and number 4, Chalcedon. But one of the kind of newer issues was, Mary was perpetually virgin. I didn't really realize that it was dealt with there at Constantinople too until I looked some of this up, because I was so enraged on Christmas Eve day when the New York Slimes ran this, that I was like, oh, this is kind of a new bit of business. This wasn't just a recapitulation, rearticulation, reconfirmation of Nicaea, Constantinople, Ephesus, Chalcedon. There's this new bit of dogmatic definition saying Mary was perpetual virgin. And it was an extension of what they'd said at and about Ephesus. Well, she was a virgin and was the mother of God. And as the mother of God, no, he did not have brothers. That's called a word. The word for brothers is the same for peer kinsmen. And Protestants just can't figure this out. They don't realize that there's 1,500 years before their heretic savior, Martin Luther, who's really the guy they're worshiping, before he made up this new man-made religion. They thought it's like the year 17 or something. It was 1517. But they think they can figure out extra stuff about the Bible, which the Catholic Church canonized.
Or that, like, the Bible wasn't originally written in English.
Yeah, they're like, what? The Gutenberg Press, the Bible was meant to be read by individual people so they could find tricks about the Catholic and Orthodox Church lies. So I just wanted to let you guys know, if you're dealing in 5-year-old news and, you remember finding some Babylon Bee jokes funny 4 or 5 years ago. Well, it's changed. It's gone downhill. It's changed management. This fellow who now runs the show over there doesn't seem to be Christian in his sensibilities. Let's say that. In his sympathies. And, at the very best, you could say, well, he's got a kind of Protestant sensibility about Mary. But I think it's worse than that. I think it's a Talmudic sensibility about Mary that caters to Protestants, and Protestants are just too ignorant to understand how Talmudic their views on Mary are. But I mean, it beggars a wider question, which is this. Given that all these people out there are noticing how much anti-Christianity there is in the well water, and where the consistent source of the anti-Christianity is, what is the source of that anti-Christianity? The people really seem to notice in 2024 where all that's coming from. And now you get pushback by major voices like Candace Owens, whereas 2, 3, 4, or 5 years ago, such pushback was unheard of. What's the source of anti-Christianity? Well, it's just a bunch of secularists. That's what they used to say, right? It's a bunch of secular leftists, Tim. No, I mean, but who among the secular leftists are always making Jesus and Mary jokes on Christmas Eve or Christmas Eve? Always doing it. You mean there's a subset within groups? We can narrow it beyond just all secular leftists. And that's a comfortable answer, right? Well, the secular left hates Christianity. I mean, not really. Secular left is just pretty much anybody who's not Christian. And a lot of people who aren't Christian don't hate Christianity. There's a group that is creedally, almost, I don't know, I don't want to say genetically, but deeply, deeply committed to hatred of Jesus and Mary. So committed that they set aside their valuable op-ed page for all of the year. On Christmas Eve, we're going to run a Mary might not have been a virgin. And it's just pure bunk. It's based on this inane bimbo, Elaine Pagels, and her ridiculous trash Gnostic Gospels book. She's just milking that teat. But of course, Nicholas Christoph is the one that wants to push the envelope. And so groups like Babylon Bee, which are allegedly Christian, instead of taking pot shots about New York Times and their slimy, like muckraking timing, taking a shot at Jesus and Mary on Christmas Eve. But there are a lot of, well, I guess it's the New York Times. There aren't a lot of Christians in New York, right? There are a lot of Nicholas Christophs, but it's a worldwide paper. It's a global paper. And they're writing that paper for the world. Don't you want to please your readership? Well, of course not. They're there as subversives, to be anti-Christian Talmudic subversives. So, I mean, I guess I'm asking in 2025, what do you guys think is going to happen with all of the noticing now that everyone's sort of on notice? Wow, this isn't just secular leftists. Like, where is the popular conversation going to go? I wonder. Will it be more school marming by groups like Babylon Bee, which bully you into saying no? I mean, Trent Horn and Lila Rose did. I listened to part of it when I was sick, most of it actually while I was sick, and it was very boring, very
milquetoast.
No, super milquetoast. I was hoping they would name more names, and Trent, would get a little more serious about taking on anyone besides like Fuentes, but I guess that's safe to take on. I thought he might mention even comments we've made over the last few months, but there's just nothing. And Lila Rose just was saying some absurd things like, I just don't get why anyone wouldn't want to support that country over there. They're surrounded by their enemies, and I just don't get why anyone wouldn't want to support them. I was like, wow, okay, there's nothing here. I already had a throbbing headache. And one of the traits of this bug, which was really odd, was it was a throbbing headache, but it was like sensitive to the touch on the scalp. And I put that out on Twitter, and a lot of people said, yeah, I had that too. That was really weird. So I already had this throbbing headache, and I couldn't sleep most nights with this thing because of the throbbing headache, and my stomach was really sensitive, so I didn't want to take an ibuprofen. So I was just up, and it was just giving me more of a headache.
You thought, I'm already in misery. Why not put on Lila Rose and Trent Horn and really just make this a hat trick?
Yeah, make it an evening. It was
talking about the Jews.
yeah, exactly. Good times.
Good times.
That was my last week of Advent. It's a penitential time. So put on Trent Horn and Lila Rose. Really on their high horse, their moral high horse. They're doing this school marming. And then, of course, I think the 23rd, the 24th, those two, the Babylon Bee thing came out making fun of Candace Owens. They might have mentioned Candace Owens. I can't remember. They did mention Fuentes. But, really uppity, really, he's, talking about his view like it's just unsustainable. How could anyone have this? Might have mentioned Owens, and I don't remember. I was in a fever dream of pain. Also because of the sickness. And then the 24th, out comes the op-ed in the New York Slimes. And I was like, do Lila and Trent just not see this? Do they not see this? The 24th? Do they not get this makes people really mad? And people now... in 2020, late 2024, much more than in late 2022, say. For the first time in generations, really are like, we know what's going on. Look at who ran this article. Do they not get that makes people really mad? I don't understand. This is our time. This is Western civilization. You might not believe me. I sincerely don't want to be arguing with folks on Twitter on Christmas Eve.
I want to make jokes.
Yeah, we should be making jokes about the other religions of the world. This is our time.
We are the ones that are making the victory lap about other people's stupid religions.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see. I want to see Christians uniting together, celebrating the Lord, and making fun of stupid religions.
Non-Christians. Particularly ones that have so ardently decided against it. I don't know, but so I don't know what normies do. What do they do when you're like, I literally just listened to that pod. It was a few days old when I listened to it, so I listened to it on probably the 23rd. And then the Babylon Bee thing happened, and then the next day, on Christmas Eve, the New York Times Christoph article came out, and I was like, okay, I mean, they were... I mean, at least Lila was asking sincerely, like, well, what's everyone mad about? I don't get it. She just didn't get it. And I'm like, okay, do you see this? Do you see who this is? Do you see that it's consistent? Or, I mean, maybe if it's the first time you ever notice something, it's impossible for you to connect the dots and note the consistency because it's 1 out of 1. But this should be the first, iteration you store away in your brain. Oh, that would make people really mad. It's Christmas Eve, And the New York Slimes publishes this really, really Talmudic article, and people seem to be mad. Huh. Okay. And instead of becoming school marm, being like, well, that's me, and just being like, oh, okay, I get that. Yeah, that's really enraging, isn't it? Someone picks our special day, our special night, and they're just subversive. Okay, and now these people that I was condemning, like whatever, Fuentes, Owens, they're claiming that this happens all the time, and I just have been ignorant to it. Well, I better look into that, because if that's true, then I've just said that there's no gunpowder for them to use, and here's a lot of gunpowder. Here's a whole fresh, dry store of gunpowder for these people to be angry about, with whatever, however that analogy should be completed. So I'm just curious how this is going to play out. I don't even know what that means, but I think it's funny when you get the pushback from normies, big mouth normies. You know, not the kind that are like wait and see. Normies are usually kind of big mouthed, I guess. They're cocky because they think they have the normalcy bias and all that. But I don't know why would Christians not be angry over this stuff? So we'll see what's going to happen. Candace Owens is on the anti-feminist thing. I guess she's writing an anti-feminist book. That's interesting. We'll see what happens with that. You guys, I hope you all had a great Christmas. I really do. Sorry to have been absent for 9 days. We hadn't planned that. Say a prayer for my family if you're willing. Still don't feel great with this.
We were almost very nearly completely absent from this planet.
Didn't it feel like it?
I was like, yeah, I was seeing through space and time at one point.
It felt like
it was brutal.
It was brutal. And I mean, like, I always say this, people. I always say, look, if I'm not throwing up and it's just a respiratory thing, then I'm good to go. But I was eating those words because, I think 4 of the kids did throw up, but it was clearly not a stomach bug first. It was like a weird secondary property, and they only did once or twice per person. And the stomach was irritated. But I will never say that again. I will never say, oh, if it's not a stomach bug, I don't even care. I guess that's a dumb thing to say anyway. I just never get hit that hard with colds or with respiratory flu. And this one there was bad aches. Man, it was just bad. So if you're suffering out with this right now, currently, then you have our prayers. God be with you. You need all the strength you can get. Rest up. Don't try to get out and get back to regular life too soon. I tried, I think on the 23rd, to go to Target to do a last bit of shopping, and that really backfired on me. That was a grave error. Now bored.
You haven't lived, by the way, until you have 7 children and all 7 of your kids just get sick within the same 10 minutes. That was
literally the same day.
We are survivors. You and I are survivors.
Yeah, I was sending pictures to family and friends. We are survivors of just the field hospital that was our downstairs den when everyone was sick with it. And it looked like, one of those Civil War battlefields, just fallen bodies everywhere. And me and Pip were like the last ones to get it. And we made our last Target run, whatever that was, last week, Wednesday. And I didn't know I was going to get it that night. So it was really bad. God bless you all, though. Merry Christmas. And, defend Christendom. Don't let them do this to us. I really don't like having to swallow the joke. Well, obviously I don't like it. I don't do it, but swallow the jokes and then, let them play victim after they make these jokes. It's a very frustrating situation. God bless you all. Merry Christmas. We'll be rolling again sometime soon. I wanted to do this first show back just to say Merry Christmas to you all, and God bless. Deus Volt.